When the world seemed to keep moving forward, and I stopped for the first time, I always thought I knew exactly who I was. The strong, determined woman who woke up before sunrise, made coffee while still half asleep, tackled 1,000 things at once, and believed that's what life was all about. Running without stopping. I had learned early on that being strong meant not showing weakness, that being responsible meant always putting others first, that being an adult meant accepting the weight of everything, even when my body screamed for rest. And for many years, I was that person. I was living on autopilot. She would wake up, work, solve problems, take care of things, plan, and repeat the same routine. The days blended together, and somehow I believed I was living when in reality I merely existed. I could barely taste the coffee I drank every morning. I couldn't remember the last time I watched a sunset without looking at a clock. I'd forgotten what it was like to sit without rushing, to breathe without guilt, to smile for no reason. I used to say, I'll do it later, I'll rest later, I'll live later, without realizing that life happens precisely in the details I was ignoring. Until one day, everything changed. It was just another morning, one of those that had all the makings of being the same as all the others. I was preparing for another busy day, already thinking about the afternoon meeting, the things I needed to resolve, the commitments that hadn't even happened yet and were already occupying my mind. It was then, while I was getting ready, that I felt something strange. A small nodule, a slight, almost insignificant annoyance, the kind you try to ignore because I don't have time for that right now. But at that moment, something inside me froze. My heart raced, my hands were sweating, and for the first time in many years, I was scared, really scared. It must be nothing. I tried to convince myself. It's normal, I argued. Probably something hormonal, I repeated. But the truth is, my intuition was screaming at me. And intuition is a curious thing. It doesn't ask if we're ready, it simply speaks. Throughout that day, something felt out of place. Every step I took, every thought I tried to organize, felt like a shadow following me, whispering, "Pay attention." And for the first time, I paid attention. I made an appointment, with a heavy heart, but with enough courage to face whatever came. The first consultation, a silence. That says it all. The office smelled of alcohol and had a forced sense of calm. I sat down in the chair and noticed that my hands were trembling slightly. The doctor performed the examination carefully, but in that focused look I already knew something was wrong. "We're going to run some tests just to be sure," she said. But I scowled. I guarantee anything if at that moment my whole life seemed to be slipping through my fingers. I left the doctor's office trying to be strong, trying to carry on, as if nothing happened, trying not to fall apart. But each step, each movement was heavy, as if I were walking in water. It was as if the world was moving on, and I had stopped for the first time in my life. The wait, the longest interval of my existence, the wait for the tests was a silent torment. No matter what I tried to do, the thought kept coming back like an echo. Look for graves. What will happen to me? Have I done everything I wanted to do in life? Did I enjoy it enough? Those were days of questions I never had the courage to ask myself. Days when time seemed to stand still. Days when the silence was louder than any scream. Days when every second felt like an eternity. I tried to distract myself, tried to continue the routine, tried to pretend everything was normal. But deep down I knew there was no turning back. That strange feeling, that lump in your throat, that cold feeling in your stomach. Everything told me that my life was about to change. I just didn't know how. I just didn't know when. I just didn't know where to go. But I knew change was coming, and she would come like a hurricane. The diagnosis that knocks down and awakens. I remember the room exactly. The noise from the air conditioner, from the clock on the wall, the doctor taking a deep breath before speaking. And I especially remember the moment when I heard, "It's cancer." That word pierced my chest like a knife. In a second, everything I knew, everything I believed, everything I planned collapsed. I felt like I had lost my footing. It was as if my whole body had become too light or too heavy, I don't know. I only know that my world at that moment crumbled. I thought it was the end of everything I was, of everything I planned, of everything I've ever dreamed of everything I still wanted to experience. And at that exact moment, my heart clenched with a force I had never felt before. It was fear, yes, fear of dying, fear of suffering, fear of leaving without leaving everything the way I wanted, fear of not being able to cope. But there was also something else there, hidden, silent. One thing I would only understand much later, an invitation to look at real life, to really look at me, to discover strengths I never imagined I had, to be reborn. I just didn't know yet. That day, I thought it was all over. But in reality, that's where the deepest, most transformative, and truest story of my life was beginning. The journey I never asked for, but that changed everything. The days between the diagnosis and the start of treatment were some of the most challenging of my life. It sounds strange to say this, but it wasn't the physical pain that affected me the most. It was the invisible pain. She who dwells in silence. The kind of thing only those who go through it understand. I would wake up in the middle of the night with my heart racing, as if it were trying to warn me that something inside me was different. Sometimes, I would sit on the edge of the bed, staring into the darkness of the room, trying to understand how everything could have changed so quickly. I saw people going about their lives normally, working, laughing, discussing trivial things. And there I was, standing still, trying to digest a world that had turned upside down, waiting for additional results, for the exact definition of the tumor type, for the staging, for confirmation of the treatment plan. It was all agonizing. Each consultation felt like a new chapter in a book I never wanted to read, but needed to finish. It was during this period that I realized how the mind can be both our greatest ally and our greatest enemy. I found myself imagining terrible scenarios, thinking about the worst, saying goodbye to things I didn't even know if I would lose. But I also found myself praying with a strength I didn't remember having. I found myself talking to myself in a sweeter tone. I found myself hugging people more intensely. Waiting taught me something no one ever taught me before. The value of now. The first step in the fight, the reality of treatment. I'll never forget my first chemotherapy session. The white room, the reclining armchairs, the bottles hanging from the metal racks, the eyes of other women who, like me, were trying to be strong while holding on to what little courage they had left. The nurse gently inserted the needle into my arm, as if she knew she was touching more than just a body, she was touching a vulnerable soul. When the liquid started to enter my vein, I felt a chill that wasn't just physical. It was as if my mind was saying, "That's it. There's no going back now." The hours there felt like days. I tried to distract myself by looking out the window, reading, listening to music. But the truth is my mind was elsewhere. I was thinking about my fears, my insecurities, about what would become of me in the coming months. After the first session, the effects began quickly. Nausea, tiredness, loss of appetite, dizziness. But nothing prepared me for the hair loss. I knew it was going to happen, but knowing is different from experiencing. In the shower, my hands would come out covered in hair. I could see strands of hair on the pillow. I watched a mirror show me someone I didn't recognize. One day I sat on the bathroom floor, my face wet with water and tears mixed together, and I broke down. I cried not only because of the strands of hair that were falling out, but because of everything they symbolized. It was as if the cancer was tearing me apart, not just of the body, but of identity. That's when I decided he wasn't going to dictate my time. I grabbed the clippers, took a deep breath, and shaved my head. I cried throughout the entire process. But when I finished, I felt something incredible. Freedom. Because, for the first time since the diagnosis, I had made a choice, and that made all the difference. The pain that teaches the fragile body, the giant soul. The following months were a real emotional roller coaster. There were days when I woke up strong, willing, ready to fight. And there were days when even getting out of bed seemed impossible. Chemotherapy takes a lot away from us, but it also reveals things. It reveals how strong we are. It reveals how resilient we are. It reveals that, no matter how much it hurts, no matter how much it seems like it will never end, life always finds a way to go on. I started to see my body in a different way. Not as a sick body, but as a warrior body, a body that fights for me every day, a body that endures even when I think I can't take it anymore. And I learned to respect myself. I learned that resting is not laziness. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Crying doesn't make me any less strong. I also learned to value small victories. Being able to eat something without getting sick of it, walking to the living room without feeling out of breath, sleeping through the night, feel no pain for a few minutes, being able to smile even when tired. These details, which previously went unnoticed, have turned into giant victories. The strength that comes from love. No one fights alone during treatment. I discovered something that changed my life. I wasn't alone. I've always been independent, the type who likes to handle everything without bothering anyone. But cancer showed me that we weren't born to carry the world alone. My family has become my safe haven. Friends became angels in disguise. Healthcare professionals have become guardians of my hope. And simple things made all the difference. A note left on the bedside table, a message saying, "I'm here," someone who washes the dishes while you relax, someone who holds your hand during chemo, someone who shows up just to make you laugh. I realized that loving and being loved is one of the greatest forces that exist. And when life gets tough, it's others who help us carry it. I also learned to trust, to allow me to be cared for. Open your heart and let the world in, because cancer takes away so much, but it also reveals what truly matters: people. The transformation, life rising from the ashes. As the months passed, the test results began to improve. The doctors brought more positive news. My body, even though tired, was starting to react. And that's when I realized that something bigger was happening inside me. I was no longer the same person. Before, I lived in a hurry. Now, I was observing the rhythm of life. Before, I used to worry about silly details. Now, I valued what was essential. Before, I wanted to appear strong in the eyes of others. Now, I wanted to be true to myself. I started looking at the sky more attentively, to feel the wind with more gratitude, breathe more consciously. The illness took a lot from me, yes, but it gave me something I never imagined. A new life, a lighter life, more sensitive, more mine. A slow and profound victory, rebuilding myself when the treatment ended. Many people thought that life would return to normal, but the truth is, I didn't want to go back to normal, because the old normal no longer made sense. I am reborn. Literally, I started to rebuild my habits, my dreams, my priorities. I discovered new tastes, new fears, new limits. I discovered a strength I would never have known if I hadn't faced this battle. And it was in this rebirth that I understood the phrase that changed everything. I thought it was the end, but it was the beginning of my new life. Because it really was. Reborn, the life that began when I thought it was going to end. When I look back at all those months of fear, pain, uncertainty, surgeries, falls, weakness, long nights, and silent prayers, I finally understood something that no other experience in life could have taught me. Cancer was not the end of my story. It was the end of the person I was to make room for who I needed to become. Today, when I look in the mirror, I see scars. Yes, they are there. Some in the body, others in the soul, but none of them define me as someone who is broken. They define me as someone built. I learned that scars aren't marks of pain, they're medals of survival. These are reminders of how my body fought. What did my soul resist? Life has put me to the test, and I stood tall. The end that illuminates the new way of living. Before the cancer, I lived a life of constant running around, running to meet goals, rushing to solve problems, running to be what they expected of me. Today, I live slowly. I'm alive and present. I live whole. I discovered that life isn't about great achievements, it's about the details that go unnoticed when we're too busy to look. Today I notice the sun that rises with different colors each morning. The wind touches my face and reminds me that I am alive. The taste of coffee, which I finally tasted after years of drinking it without realizing it. Simple conversations that have a value I never knew how to appreciate. Genuine smiles, the kind I no longer put off. I have never lived so intensely as I have since received the diagnosis. I have never loved so much, never allowed myself so much, never seen myself so clearly. The illness, paradoxically, opened my eyes to life. Fear has always been there. At first, it was enormous, suffocating, paralyzing. But over time, it changed shape. He ceased to be a monster that haunted me, to become a teacher who guided me. Today, I respect fear. I talk to him. I understand what he wants to teach me. Fear taught me that life is too fragile to be postponed. Dreams can't wait for the right moment. That love cannot be a vague promise for the future. Fear taught me to be brave, truly courageous, not the kind of courage that pretends not to feel pain, but the kind of courage that feels everything and keeps going anyway. I never imagined I would feel gratitude for having lived through something so difficult, but I feel it. I am grateful to have discovered the nodule in time. I am grateful to the doctors who treated me like a human being and not like a number. I am grateful for the family that loved me without hesitation. I am grateful for the friends who have remained. I am grateful for the small victories that I previously ignored. I am grateful for each and every day that passes, for every breath, for every step. And I am grateful, above all, for having been forced to stop. If I hadn't stopped, maybe I would have continued living on autopilot. Perhaps I never understood the value of the life I hold in my hands. Cancer made me look inward, and for the first time, I liked what I found. If someone had told me, before all of this, that I would be able to endure such a great battle, I wouldn't have believed it. But the truth is, we only discover our own strength when being strong is the only option. I was strong on the days I cried. I was strong on the days I smiled. On the days I walked. On the days when I fell apart. I was strong on the days I wanted to give up, but I didn't. On the days when the pain was overwhelming. And yet I still kept going. And today, when I look at my own story, I see a woman who has risen from her own ruins. A woman who rebuilt herself piece by piece. A woman who learned to love herself in a way she had never loved before. The force was there. It always has been. I only needed the darkness to see her. It was on a simple day, one of those days the world calls ordinary, that I realized. I was sitting in the backyard, smelling the damp earth after the rain, gazing at the clear sky that was slowly appearing. And without realizing it, I smiled. A gentle smile, a free smile, the smile of someone who has returned. That's when I understood. I didn't just survive. I am reborn. Cancer tried to stop me, but it couldn't. He tried to destroy me, but he built me up. He tried to silence me, but he gave me a voice. It tried to be the end, but it was the beginning of my new life. Today, I live a different way. Deeper, more present, more true. I don't love halfway. I'm not postponing my dreams any longer. I don't keep pretty words to myself. I don't leave feelings for later. I don't save my best version for someday. My someday is now. My time is today. My life is here. If I could summarize everything I've learned, I would say 3 things. 1. Life is a daily miracle, and every minute deserves to be lived with intention. 2. Love heals. It heals the body, mind, and soul. 3. I am stronger than any fear. And you are too. No matter what you're facing, no matter the size of the pain, the doubt, or the storm, within you lies a strength you do not yet know you possess. A light that no diagnosis can extinguish. A hope that persists even when everything seems to be falling apart. If my story is of any use, let this serve as a reminder that there is no such thing as an impossible end. There is a disguised fresh start. I thought it was the end, but it was the beginning of my new life. Today, when I place my hand on my chest and feel my heart beating, I understand what it truly means to be alive. It means presence. It means purpose. It means love. It means strength. It means resilience. I thought cancer was going to take everything from me, but he gave me back to myself. And today, with all the scars, with all the history, with all the pain that has turned into light, I say this with pride, with truth, and with emotion. I thought it was the end, but it was the beginning of my new life.